Welcome back to Quietly Secure. This is the beginning of a new season, or more like the continuance of the older seasons, but in greater depth. And if you're joining for the first time, there's already 2 full seasons waiting for you, covering everything from online privacy and tracking to scams, security myths, and how the modern internet really works. So if you enjoy this episode, there's plenty more for you to explore. And if you find the podcast useful, sharing it with someone else genuinely helps more people discover it. With that said, let's begin. A few times every day, most of us type something into a website. We search for something, we sign into an account, or we open an app on our phone. It feels like a simple interaction, a small exchange between you and the service you're using. You type something in, the website responds, but behind the scenes that information rarely travels to just one place. Most modern websites and apps rely on dozens of supporting systems, analytics tools, cloud platforms, security services, and infrastructure that quietly help the internet run. And most of us never see them. So today we're starting this season with a simple question. When you use the internet, where does your data actually go? When people imagine using the internet, they picture it usually very simple. You open a website, your computer connects to the website server, information goes back and forth. For a long time, that was actually a fairly accurate description. But modern websites rarely work that way anymore. Most online services today are made up of many different pieces. Some run by the company itself, and others run by entirely different providers. When you open a single web page, your web browser may quietly contact multiple systems at the same time. Some help display the page, some measure the performance, and some provide security checks. And others help companies understand how their services are being used. These systems form what we might call the background internet. Infrastructure that supports the experience people see on their screens. Imagine opening a news website. You click on a link and that page loads. It feels instant and straightforward. But in the background, several things may happen at once. Your browser contacts the site's main server to retrieve the article. At the same time, it may also connect to a content delivery network, which is a system that distributes copies of images and scripts around the world so they load faster. Another request might go to an analytics service that measures how many readers open the article. There may be a request to a security service check whether the connection looks legitimate. All of this typically happens in a fraction of a second, and you, the user, rarely notices any of it. The reason modern services are built this way is mostly practical. Running a large website requires solving many different technical problems: speed, reliability, security, and scalability. Rather than building every component themselves, companies often rely on specialist providers that handle these tasks extremely well. A cloud platform might store data. A security provider might monitor for suspicious traffic. An analytics system might help understand how people use their service. Instead of one large machine, the internet now works more like a network of cooperating systems. Each piece performs a specific role. Together, they create the experience we think of as a single website or application. When people hear that data moves between systems, it can sound more dramatic than it really is. In most cases, the information involved is fairly limited. Things like the page you opened, the type of device you're using, basic technical details about the connection, the performance information about how quickly the page was loaded. This kind of data helps services function and improve over time. Of course, some systems also support advertising or personalization, which we'll talk about more in the next episode, but the important idea here is simply this. Most online interactions involve multiple support systems, not just the service you see. If you zoom out far enough, the internet starts to look less like a collection of websites and more like an ecosystem. There are platforms, infrastructure providers, analytics services, security networks, and many other layers working together. Most of them operate quietly. Most of the time, users never notice them. And in many ways, that invisibility is intentional. The goal of infrastructure is usually to make things simpler and faster, not more complicated. So the systems fade into the background while the experience stays smooth. Learning about these layers doesn't mean the internet should suddenly feel suspicious or threatening. In fact, understanding the structure often makes things feel less mysterious. Once you realise that modern services rely on many cooperating systems, things like tracking, analytics, and infrastructure start to make more sense. They become part of the architecture of the internet rather than hidden surprises. And this broader perspective is what we'll explore throughout this season. At the beginning of this episode, we asked a simple question. When you use the internet, where does your data actually go? The answer is that it rarely travels to just one destination. Instead, it moves through a network of services that help websites run, measure performance, and deliver content quickly around the world. Most of these systems form part of what we might call the background internet, infrastructure that supports the digital experiences we use every day. And once you start noticing it, the internet begins to look a little different. Not just a collection of websites, but a complex system quietly working behind the scenes. Next time on Quietly Secure, we'll look at a question that naturally follows from this one. If so many systems are involved in delivering online services, how do those services actually make money? Why are there so many tools, platforms, and apps free to use? And what trade-offs sit between that model? Thanks for listening, and in all this, stay calm, stay quietly secure.